Hey everyone, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I'm Bueller. This is part one of the Elliott Kalan interview that we did for Dynamite. We talk about his book Hercules that's coming out, and also his other book from a few years ago, Maniac of New York, which is one of my favorites. Like I said, this is part one, so let's not waste any more time, and part two will be out in a few weeks. All right? I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Hey everybody, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I am Bueller, and today is another creator interview. We've been doing a lot of these lately, and today I have Elliott Kalan. Elliott, how you doing today?
Good, thanks. How are you? It looks like you are. It looks like you're doing better than me because you're somewhere beautiful, and I'm in front of my closet.
Hey, those are some nice looking closets.
They're okay.
Are they professionally organized or just throwing stuff in there?
Very unprofessionally organized. Yeah, if I would open them to show you, but my wife would get mad at me. They're a mess. So imagine something beautiful in there. Imagine it.
Well,
Imagine that I have a beautiful lake in the middle of the Nevada desert in my
there,
closets.
and like you just said, I am by a lake in the Nevada desert right now. It's a wildlife refuge. I can't pronounce the name. It's an Indian name. I've tried to pronounce it many times. I just can't get it. But it's really beautiful here. It's a refuge. I get to stay here for about 2 weeks before I got to move on. So I'm heading back up north to Oregon, my home state. So I'm looking forward to leaving in about a week or so. But we're here to talk about a book that you're writing. We're here to talk about Hercules from
Yes.
Dynamite, which I'm pretty excited about. I got to ask you first, because first you did Hades, which
Mm-hmm.
is the bad guy, of course. And now you're doing Hercules, which is the good guy. So you must be a fan of Greek mythology, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So
very much so.
can you tell me why Greek mythology is why you're such a big fan of that, and why now you get to talk about Hercules and Hades?
That's that's a great question to make it Greek mythology focused. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved Greek mythology. Even before I got into comic books, Greek mythology was kind of like the world of characters and continuity and adventures that was readily available at my fingertips, and it just felt like this very kind of amazing, magical world of these very powerful heroes and monsters and magic everywhere. And I was so enamored of the idea of gods that kind of represented specific things and were involved in regular people's adventures and heroes' adventures. And the fact that everyone in Greek mythology is related to each other. They're all each other's parents or siblings or spouses, and or like a monster will get killed and the blood will fall on the ground and turn into people that go on to
Yeah,
have adventures. And I just loved how, no matter how much I learned about Greek mythology, there was always more for me to learn about it. There were always, it's just so intricate and so detailed, so complicated. And I could learn about it in school. And it was like, oh, finally a thing that has like monsters in it that I can learn about in school. This is amazing.
yeah.
And so the opportunity to so when the Hercules movie came out, I really liked it a lot. I was a big fan of it. When the opportunity came up to write these characters, I was excited because it meant I could engage in that world of Greek myths, and the fact that even in the original myths, the Greek characters are imperfect. The heroes have problems. The monsters are sometimes sympathetic. The gods mess up, and how much opportunity for storytelling that gives you, because there's good and evil, but things are not always cut and dried, and the characters feel alive. They have personality, as opposed to I grew up Jewish and I remain Jewish, and the Jewish God, his personality is mainly he's angry sometimes, and other times he's aloof. And the
Mhm.
Greek gods, like, they fall in love with people. They enjoy themselves. They also get mad. They commit crimes and they feel bad about it, or they don't feel bad about it, or they get punished for it by somebody else, or they pull tricks on each other. And I just love working in that world of these characters who have such vivid personalities, who are also supernatural beings. So it's really exciting to me, and it means that I get to do like I could finally give my take on what Galatea, the statue who gets brought to life, can be. And she's my favorite character to write in this series right now. Or later on, I have I'm trying to say which characters I can introduce and which characters I mention, which characters I don't. The character of Prometheus shows up at one point, and just being like, how can I find a new take on Prometheus? Like, what would be a fun take on this character? And to know that I have a little bit of wiggle room, because I won't be the last person to write about Prometheus or Hercules. Those characters have been around for thousands of years, and they will most likely continue to be long after this series has come and gone. But I don't know. Actually, maybe now's the time to get on board. Maybe this will become the canonical version of these characters, and you should. And the reason that people should pick up Hercules #1 and this issues afterwards. Maybe this is what future generations are going to learn about the Greek heroes. That's how I'll pitch it. I'll pitch this as the new iconic version. Yeah.
So Hercules should be taught in classrooms going forward on the comic book version that you're writing.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. And all previous versions will be considered non-canonical. Yeah, we can get rid of those. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have a little bit of wiggle room. Obviously, this is a Disney property that Dynamite has now licensed that. So, like when you say wiggle room, what are we looking at here? Because obviously, it is a Disney property. They probably have final say on everything. It's their characters and stuff. This character goes beyond Disney, and Hercules has been around a lot longer than Disney has. So they've adopted it. But this version that you're writing is the Disney property. So what is the wiggle room? What can you introduce? What can't you introduce?
So Disney has been super supportive of what I've been doing with it, which I appreciate. I mean, part of that is I don't want to do things that go against the spirit of the movie or go against the spirit of the characters in the movie. And I'm not looking to this is not the dark, gritty, like everything you thought was wrong about Hercules series. I want him to be a hero. I want him to be a hero who represents goodness and values that I believe in. And so I've been in keeping with that realm, keeping with that thinking. Disney has allowed me to basically bring in whatever characters from mythology that I can. If a character existed in Greek myth, then I can bring them into this series. So far, I've yet to find one where they're like, "No, you can't do that character. You can't. That myth is not okay with us." And they've been very open to me adding things in as long as it is rooted in Greek mythology and it is in the spirit of what Disney wants to do with this character in these stories, what Disney did with the film. And keeping with those boundaries, they've given me a lot of leeway. I came to them with the story I wanted to tell, and they were on board with it. They seem to be happy with the way I've been using the characters, and wanting to give each of the characters from the movie kind of their time to shine and their heroic moments, trying to make them fun to be around and continue their personalities consistently with the movie. But they've given me a lot of freedom with, can I bring in this mythological character? Can I bring in this character from Greek mythology? Can I bring in this one? And they're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can do it. Can I tell this story? The way that the series is structured, it starts out with single issue stories that will build to become the lead up to a longer story. And they've been really cool with it. They've given me a lot of freedom, as long as I'm not doing things that are, I guess, terrible. As long as I'm not doing terrible things, they're very happy with it. And we're very on the same page because, like I said, as much as I like those original myths, the Hercules story in the original myths gets very dark. The 12 labors of Hercules, which everyone remembers, he goes on those because he has under a period of under some sort of influence. I mean, we're trying to remember the details. He has murdered his entire family, and that is something that I was not trying to bring into the Disney Hercules mythos. So I think we're on the same page that I want to bring in more things from Greek myths, but I also want this to be a book that kids can read, a book that grown-ups can read, something that feels true to the character that exists now, that people care about, rather than coming in and saying, forget everything you know. I'm going to upend radically what we think about Hercules. Instead, it's, do you like Hercules? Okay, then you're going to like this. And Disney, I think, is happy with that. So they've been happy with me also wanting to do the thing they want to do naturally, which has been good.
Well, being a fan of Greek mythology, you must be having a lot of fun writing this book and also writing Hades as well.
Yes, that was it. So Hades was the first one that I was asked to come on to, and my editor at Dynamite, Nate Cosby, who I'd worked with before elsewhere, he said, "Would you want to write this Hades book?" And I said, "Yes, of course I would." And I put together the plot for that, where it's a heist story. Hades is going to steal the Golden Fleece, and one of the most fun things about it was saying, "Okay, if I was going to steal something, which Greek characters would I bring together for my group? What challenges do I have to deal with, and who would I have for that?" and assembling this team of Arachne and Icarus and Orpheus and the Minotaur, and being able to give them kind of new personalities, but still remaining true to their histories in the myths. And it was just super fun. And each time I would read up a little bit on the characters to remind myself of things about them, I'd find a new thing and I'd be like, oh yeah, I can do that too, because it's in the myth. I'll do that. And bringing in just whatever, either little references I could, or introducing whole characters. And it's just been it's been a blast. It feels like I get to really do what I want, to have fun with these characters that, like I said, I've been reading about since I was a child, and getting to, even though I'm not contributing, even though I said this is going to be the canonical version of Hercules forever, I don't get to contribute on the same level that like Homer was contributing when he wrote about the Greek gods. I feel like I still get to contribute a little bit to the wider mosaic of these myths and these characters in a little way. It's just been super fun. Yeah, it's fun to wake up and say, like, what character is Hercules going to deal with today? Like what? Like what's he like? What can I do if Hercules comes up against like Talos, the automaton? And there's just such a wide variety of characters in the Greek myths that I feel like I'm only scratching the surface of what's possible with them.
Well, I was a big fan of the Kevin Sorbo Hercules TV show. I watched
the Legendary Journeys, very legendary.
It was so good. Like Saturday night, it used to come on in my area and stuff like that. I loved it. Now, one of the things in that TV show, obviously it's a lot different from the Disney version, but in the TV show, he had a sidekick, and like 2 feet shorter than he was. I can't remember the guy's character name, but can we see any type of sidekick on this version of Hercules that you're writing?
Oh, for sure. So he has his kind of like cast of characters that are with him. He has, from the movie, he's got his coach Phil, who is also a short guy. He's a satyr, a faun, a goat man, and is kind of dubious when he's always sending out Hercules on jobs for the gods, but he's also kind of dubious and cynical about things and sarcastic. And then there's Meg, his love, who he rejected immortality for at the end of the movie, and she's a part of these adventures also. She and Phil are accompanying him on most of what's going on. And in the first issue, I introduce a character who seems like a threat at first. And then we learn the truth about her, which is a character I mentioned earlier while we were talking, Galatea, who in the story of Pygmalion and Galatea, Pygmalion fell in love with a sculpture of a woman that he crafted, and he prays to Aphrodite to bring her to life, and she does. And in my version of it here, Galatea comes to life, but she's still a statue. She's still super strong, and like she's made out of marble, and she does not know her own strength, and becomes Hercules' kind of sidekick and protege in a lot of these adventures. But she's also, because Aphrodite brought her to life, she's also filled with love. She loves everything, but she also loves to fight and loves to like grapple and wrestle because she's super strong. And so she is kind of the person that Hercules is teaching to be a hero in this. And I've loved having her on as a sidekick who can also take part in the battles and things that Hercules is doing. So he has a couple different sidekicks that serve different purposes. Phil is his mentor, who is kind of helping keep him on track. Meg is his love, who is the person he trusts the most in the world and can turn to for advice or understanding and for confidence in times when he needs it. And Galatea is the person that he is teaching, but also who he can rely on to help him punch monsters if necessary. And working on different combinations of these characters and having them interact with each other has been super fun as well. But it's a Hercules book, but he brings this whole family of characters with him that all get a chance to be involved in the stories. So yes, there's tons of sidekicks, lots of sidekicks.
So
there's sidekicks everywhere.
He's not hitting these adventures alone. He's got a team behind him this time.
Yes, occasionally he'll be alone because he's forced to be. He's separated from the others. But yeah, he's got this team with him that help it to be more than just a book about a strong guy who walks around talking to himself or getting into fights. They all have different points of view on things that are going on. Hercules has a conflicted relationship with the gods because Zeus and Hera are his parents in the Disney series, and they don't fully they understand that he has chosen to be mortal so he can be with the woman he loves, but they don't really fully understand it because why wouldn't you want to be a god? It's amazing. And Meg, his love, she thinks the gods are kind of think they're better than everybody else. They mess up people's lives. They're not, they don't think about the consequences of their actions. And Phil also thinks that they're a little too snooty, but he's ready to serve them and kind of clean up their messes when they need it. And Hercules can see their points of view, but it's hard for him to not like his family. It's hard for him to judge his relatives. And as the series goes on, the gods get into trouble, and Hercules and his friends are the only ones that can save them. And Meg is like, why bother? Like, we'll be better off without them. And Hercules has to say, they're not just the gods, they're my family. And having him dealing with that dynamic while the other characters are dealing with that dynamic in different ways is part of the fun of having this family of characters and this supporting group of characters, so that you can get different perspectives on the adventures that they're in. It also means there's more jokes you can write when you have more characters. Hercules has someone he can tell jokes to. They can tell jokes to him. One of my favorite character in the history of fiction is Spider-Man. But there are times when I'm reading a Spider-Man comic and he's just cracking jokes to himself while he's swinging around the city, and I'm like, he's borderline just a person who's losing his mind at this point. That he's just talking to nobody, making jokes to himself. So it's better for Hercules to have some people to talk to, so that he can both struggle alongside them, but also have fun with them, have a laugh with them.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break from Hercules. We'll come back to it at the end of the video, but I want to talk about some of your other work. And one of the things I like doing about when I do these creator interviews, I get to do some research on you guys. And I always find stuff that, like, oh my God, that was one of my favorite books. So Maniac of New York.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote that book.
Yeah, that was my book.
I did not realize that. And then I was like, I read that and I love that. That was a lot of fun, man. I really enjoyed it.
And thank you. I'm so glad you liked it.
Yeah, I read the first volume. There's 3 different volumes. And I read the first one, really enjoyed it quite a bit. It was brutal, it was bloody, it had everything you're looking for a New York slasher book and stuff like that. Obviously I know it was with Aftershock. Aftershock has had better days and stuff like that.
They're having some issues right now. Yeah.
Do we get to continue eventually with the Maniac with another publisher or whatever, or with Aftershock again? Where do we see that going? Because 3 different volumes, and honestly, when it comes to a villain like this, they never really die.
Yes.
They just keep on going, different versions, or they resurrected, whatever you want to call it. They're never really dead.
Very, very much so. So we did 2 complete volumes at Aftershock, and the 3rd volume, unfortunately, because of Aftershock's financial difficulties, is unfinished. The whole thing is written. The art has been done for most of it, but only 2 issues only half of it has been released because Aftershock is having its trouble. But hopefully either they will pull out of that trouble, or I will have the chance somewhere else. I love that character. The Maniac New York is a character and a story that was living in my head for years before I finally got a chance to tell it. And
that's a little weird.
It's a little bit. What it really was is that New York is a very special place to me. I lived there for a long time. I grew up in New Jersey, right outside the city. Then I lived in the city for most of my adult life until I moved to sunny Los Angeles. And and it's a city that's very special to me. And I've always been disappointed in Jason Takes Manhattan, because it was like, finally, the chance to see real horror on a New York scale, and it doesn't do it. And so for years, I've been wanting to tell that kind of story in a way that New York really deserves, in a way that is both as epic as New York is, but also takes advantage of that New York is a city where there are every single different kind of human being lives in New York City. It's just a city that has anything you would need, and anything you'd be interested in. And so I was thinking about that story for a long time, and I love working with the artist on it, Andre Mooney. I always mispronounce his name, and I think it's Booty. I can never remember. I'll feel so bad if he watches this. But and he and I are going to work on something else together. But we talk about Maniac all the time, and other ideas we have for it, things we want to do with it. And so I am hoping that 3rd volume, the end of it, will see the light of day, and that I'll get to do more with it, because I have more stories to tell with it. it's a character that is very very important to me. I was going to say very close to me, but that sounds strange because he's a
Sure.
he's a maniac. He kills people, but is very
Yeah.
important to me. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and hopefully that the series will be resurrected, much as the maniac himself has been resurrected and will be
Yes.
again.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it when they came out, and honestly, when it first came out, I mean, Aftershock at the time was really hitting on all cylinders. There were some really good books coming out, really good quality books. When I say quality, I'm not talking about what's in the pages. I'm actually talking about the actual physical quality of the book.
Yeah,
Nice,
yeah,
nice artwork, nice pages, nice cover, all that good stuff all put together. And like you said, you mentioned the artwork. The artwork from the artist fit the story. It looked like a
yeah, yeah.
slasher type, type book. That's the type of artwork that goes with that book. And I can remember the parts when he was in the school, and
Hmm.
it was just really creepy, and I really felt it. So I really did enjoy that series, and I reviewed it on my channel multiple times, and always made sure it was on the list when we were doing our videos. But that was
Awesome.
one of
Thank
the
you very
books.
much.